Hello, first of all, I would like to wish everyone a very happy and blessed new year. And today in this recording, I'm going to be speaking about this upcoming new moon taking place in the sign of Capricorn on the 11th of January 2024. Now, a new year, and this is the very first new moon of this new year. Now, of course, I must specify that it's not necessarily a new year, a new cycle from an astrological perspective. So let's just keep that in mind when we say new year and stuff like that. It is basically calendaristically in our human world new year, but not necessarily, astrologically cycle wise. Usually, the astrological new year starts when the sun enters into 0 degrees of Aries. So the Aries, the spring equinox is usually when, astrologically speaking, the new year begins. Yet still, a new moon is so very much charged with the energy of new beginnings. So the symbolism and the feeling of fresh and new is definitely going to be part of this new moon, and not necessarily just from a very alchemical perspective, so to speak, to plant new seeds of intention and stuff like that. But this is also where, for quite a lot of people out there in the world, of course, individually speaking, this new moon is going to start, of course, karmically speaking, which means it doesn't necessarily have to be, on the 11th of January, because the sphere of influence of any new moon is usually the day when it happens, and also 6 months after, over the course of the 6 months, even though the astrology of this specific new moon suggests that certain manifestations or alignments, let's say, or whatever the universe, whatever external reality may, bring up to you as an opportunity, as a suggestion, as a guidance, etc., might be very quick and spontaneous, and there is a very strong energy of surprise attached to it. But because this is a trine, so a supremely harmonious celestial conversation, I would expect that this is the more, positive, delightful expression of surprise specific to Uranus, and not all that much the bad kind of surprise, if you know what I mean. However, this new moon also holds a conversation of tension with very strong precision. Actually, it holds a T square with the nodes of the moon. So the north node being in the sign of Aries at 20 degrees, south node the same degree in the sign of Libra. So we see the T square here. And again, the T square is very precise to the orb. So this represents that it's not all that easy. And this not easiness, I'm sorry, might come from deep within the self, North Node in the sign of Aries. So opportunities, new beginning, getting things done, taking something very seriously to, encourage it towards completion. This is all positive and ambitious and, action oriented. However, the square with the north node does ask us to check in with ourselves of how the opportunities that we may um, embrace in our lives are aligned with our purpose, our path, our sovereignty, our distinct situation. The north node in Aries, individually speaking, especially, this is where, how are we getting to where we need to be in life, or put this into your own unique, special, individual context. But on the big picture, this is kind of what it tells us. And then we also have the square to the south node in the sign of Libra. any partnerships, any alliances, friendships, one-on-one, even if it's not with people, like for example, institutions, anything that has to do with organization, top-down power, authority, groups of people, anything legal where there is some kind of uh, us and the other side. So all of these things may also hinder us. There might be a necessity to really reflect and contemplate and think deeply of how we can make the energies that the new moon bring in our lives work for us personally. So adapt it to our own unique individual situation. And that means that we do need to know ourselves, know our inner motivation, our desire, our value system, etc., 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 really, really well. Of course, I would like to say that ever since the year 2020, most of the major karmic uh, um, energies have guided us individually one way or another, even many times collectively, we were guided to our individuality. Let me just give you an example. Lockdown. In lockdown, we really, really needed to soul search to understand what exactly is on in our inner world and what doesn't resonate with that coming from the external. That was basically the premises of transformation and change. Having done all that, inner work and reflection and brainstorming, soul storming, any kind of storming to figure out our most authentic inner truth and value system, that means that right now our job with this new moon might be just a tiny bit easier because we know very strongly, we feel very strongly our truth and where exactly we need to go, want to go, etc. So adapting this to what we have in our lives, especially new events, new opportunities that might arise surprisingly, or they might be, because we must not forget Uranus is retrograde, so it might be even opportunities that we might have thought to be missed, or we couldn't accept them, we couldn't work with them, we had to decline them from not so very long ago, might come back once again. They might make a return in our lives, because retrograde does suggest that it can bring up the past, and with Uranus, usually the recent past, maybe events in 2022, 2023, what was especially 2021 and 2022, when we had this Saturn and Uranus square ongoing all throughout the years. What happened back then? What is it that we simply could not accept and embrace opportunity-wise, or start and initiate something that has to do with something that is very valuable, or our mastery, our knowledge, our professional training, anything of this nature. So that might return in our lives. But keep it in mind, it might not necessarily be exactly on the 11th. The 11th is just a portal, it opens the gates. It can come at any moment or over the course of time after the 11th. Now, another energy which I really, really, really like, and it may not speak directly to this new moon, yet it is very, very relevant. So if you look on the screen, the sign of Capricorn is starting to get packed with planets. We still have Pluto at the very, very end degree of Capricorn. Then we have Mars also at the beginning of Capricorn. It passed the 0 degree point. It's at 5 degree, but that's still pretty fresh and new. And speaking about Mars, well, Mars loves being in the sign of Capricorn. Mars is in exaltation there, meaning that it's able to bring forward its highest qualities. So usually Mars is really, really good at initiating and reacting and, using the moment. But in the sign of Capricorn, Mars also follows that through. It is where Mars is ambitious, determined, committed. It really, really wants to complete something or do as much as it can towards completion. So this is the good side of the energy. Of course, all of this needs sacrifice. All of this needs energy input. So there is a price to it, but ultimately, it really wants to see things through what it begun or what it needs to take care of or what it can take care of. So this is a really, really positive energy, especially that Mars holds a supremely harmonious conversation, a trine, a 120-degree aspect with Jupiter from fellow Earth sign Taurus. Jupiter expands the symbolism of Mars. I know that this is a harmonious conversation, but there could be a tiny bit of a downside where we expand it way too much. So remember that Capricorn loves realism. And in that sense, even Taurus. So we need to keep this energy of hope, of promises, of can-do attitude, of feeling the strength. Maybe not necessarily in a applicable way where I have so much ambition and energy and fire and passion within me, even if that just means I am gonna see this through no matter what. Even if I don't have all that much energy and resources, even that is enough. The bad thing is if we overdo it, if we really, really delude ourselves, or if we get way, way too high with this can-do attitude. But ultimately, this is a blessing. This is definitely a can-do attitude. If we choose to take action, and again, this is more like constructive action. This is where the most refined action, it's almost like a tiny little bit of the energy of, let's say, Virgo as well, mixed into this picture, because ultimately Mars is also trine. We can call it a trine with Black Moon Lilith in the sign of Virgo. So this is where the meticulosity and the positive side of the hair splitting attitude of Virgo can actually come as a blessing. So this is a really, really beautiful energy, as long as we don't overdo it with, false hopes or faith and an attitude which is way too exaggerated. Now, another energy which is also really, really positive, and Mars is part of it, is that Mars holds a sextile also at the time of this new moon with Capricorn's ruler, Saturn. Saturn being in the sign of Pisces, and Saturn is just beginning to pick up a tiny bit of speed as it goes through its shadow path. So this is a really, really beautiful energy, grounding, anything, any action, Mars is symbolism in Capricorn. Well, everything that I said earlier with the trine Jupiter stands. But I need to add to this that Saturn in the sign of Pisces brings an extra layer of morality, brings an extra layer of faith, brings an extra layer of that deep Pisces energy where even if we might not be able to see the result, see the big picture, see the light at the end of the tunnel regarding of what we are doing with this Mars energy, it's no problem, even if it's a mystery. Our faith, our morality, our self-knowledge, and our ultimately Saturnian attitude, responsibility, diligence, being strong when it's needed, being gentle when it, etc., etc. This sextile really gives Mars a really grounding, reality oriented, but also sufficiently alchemical, magical, faithful, hopeful charge that can actually do wonders. This energy is truly wonderful for completing things, working on things, investing energy, time into projects, career, uh, anything lucrative, anything that is basically Capricornian in your life. So where does this 20 degree of Capricorn fall into your personal chart? Because that area of life is going to be strongly activated, and the energies of the new, of the fresh, and to complete the work that you need to complete, is that's where you're gonna be experiencing this. Now, another energy that I find really beautiful and quite optimistic, and this energy is also one that doesn't directly converse with the new moon, is Venus. Venus is at 15 degrees of the sign of Sagittarius, holding a trine. So again, 120 degree, an aspect of supreme harmony with Chiron. This is a fire trine. Very beautiful, because Venus in the sign of Sagittarius, the power of love. But the power of love, how should I explain this? Venus is about the power of love in so very many signs. For example, she is very much the power of love, but in a romantic, steamy, romantic way in the sign of Pisces, for example. Venus is all about the power of love in the sign of Taurus, but in a very embodied and earthly way. Venus is definitely the power of love in the sign of Libra in a, let's say, philosophical and principalistic way, but she is also, oh, needless to say, Cancer. In the sign of Cancer, she has definitely the power of love in a family oriented, parental, let's belong together kind of way. So more like family or a community, stuff like that. But Sagittarius, she's also about the power of love, dreams, the principle, the philosophy, the more divine expression and the divine power of love. Trine Chiron, that heals. So healing is going to take place not just in our individual lives, where individually this energy may take so very many different expressions, loving words, praises, academic recognition, for example. Why do I say academic recognition? Because Sagittarius can have so much to do with the academic world, studies, universities, schools, learning, mentorship, etc., etc. But you have a wound. Exactly there, this Venus trine Chiron can bring a strong, soothing, and healing wave. But it can play out in so very many different ways. It is truly beautiful and positive. But on the world stage, collectively speaking, maybe that's where it can play out the most useful, let's say, way, because Sagittarius international aid, Venus, international efforts for healing, for, all of that. And we must not forget that Chiron at this moment is already direct. That really helps. And another energy which is, quite powerful, is that Mercury at the time of this new moon, Mercury is here, it is quite tightly conjunct the galactic center. the divine intelligence is infusing our mental spheres. And square Neptune. Now, I spoke about the Neptune and Mercury square all through last year, especially in the Mercury retrograde horoscope. This is the final showdown of this energy that we're experiencing. This square is waning, and this square was about what is true and what is not true. What it is that we can only understand with the logic of the soul, Neptune in the sign of Pisces, and what it is that we can actually understand with the higher mind, Mercury in the sign of Sagittarius, with logic, down to earth, research, and philosophy, and all of that. But in this very special context, this is where the galactic, the divine mind is inspiring our mental sphere, even if we cannot make sense of it when it happens, the Neptune square. This can be an energy of quite strong restlessness, a tiny bit of anxiety, insomnia, excitedness, serendipity, where you feel something, but you don't see it, you just feel it. And of course, it might be coming, not necessarily at the time of this new moon, but January, as I said, is like a slingshot. It is definitely gonna catapult us where we need to. It's gonna get very, very busy as soon as Uranus on the 27th of January starts moving direct, stand still in the sky and start moving direct. So this energy is just preparing us for exactly that. But of course, before that, on the 21st of January, Pluto moves into the sign of Aquarius, leaving Capricorn until it retrogrades back uh, around 3rd of September, if I'm not mistaken. So that is also going to be very impactful because Pluto is finally going to leave Capricorn alone for a couple of months. But at the time of the new moon, it is still in Capricorn and very, very powerful. The deconstructive element, the revelatory element, especially top down authority, political corruption, the leaders and stuff like that. And Mars, on the other hand, also in the sign of Capricorn, is conjunct dwarf planet Ixion, which represents lawlessness, but in its most favorable expression, because trine Jupiter, remember, Jupiter is the trine of the law. Sorry, Jupiter, Jupiter is the planet which governs the law from its Jupiterian perspective. So, which laws can simply not be accepted because they're corrupt by nature or because they do not reflect the divine truth. So this is where certain laws, certain legislation, or certain decisions of top-down authority are going to be heavily contested by multiple elements, people, other politicians, etc., etc. So Mars activating Ixion here will really, really play out on the world stage where people are going to contest the laws and legislation and what's true and what's not, but based on, again, not necessarily research and something solid and empirical, but what we believe and what we want to believe. So there is going to be a lot of movement here. But also, let us get to the Sabian symbol of this new moon, because I do find that very, very, very revelatory, and it does speak about what we can expect, especially collectively. Well, the Sabian symbol is a relay race. But this is how it's worded, but let me explain this. So the Sabian symbol is that type of race where there are more teams, and a team is composed of more individuals who have to, of course, race, but pass the staff from one to the other. So every single team member will have their own unique moment. in the race. And this is how the competition is held between more than one team. Now, why this Sabian symbol revelatory? Exactly the passing of the staff or torch or whatever. When you tag the other team member that it's your turn. So on one hand, certain duties, certain responsibilities, the spotlight is gonna be passed down. But to who will see? This can play out in our individual lives as well. Let me give you the most easiest example. Surprise, surprise, the manager, the supervisor, the whatever is passing the responsibility down to another person, maybe to you. Or this new moon really, really favors stepping up your anyone's game, while for others stepping down, but in the most positive sense possible, where your duty is over, where you're not feeling it anymore, or where something new moon, excites you so very much that you make the decision that it's really time for you to step down and embrace something else. So this new moon can have all of these examples, all of these manifestations, be part of it, especially that there is that really, really powerful and optimistic trine with Uranus. Surprise, surprise. Your authenticity, your brightest idea, you feeling something deep within you, like a proper value that you need to make it part of your life, or the time is come, or life gives you the means to do it. So this can be a very sudden, a very, how should I say, powerful but unexpected change of directions or revolution events, especially in things that have to do with our earthly lives. The symbolism of Capricorn in our own personal lives, and also Mercury conjunct the galactic center, things are going to feel so very fated in a very, very quick motion. So this energy is quite powerful. This energy can, as I said, represent a massive leap of faith for certain people out there, while for other people, their alignment with their true path, with their true destiny, by exactly stepping down. And this step down is actually not anything negative, but rather they will feel within them that, yep, the time for me to work with this and that, this career or this soul path or whatever you're are and were immersed into, that time is over. It's time to embrace something else. So passing down the staff, the torch, the whatever, tagging someone, or it is you who are being tagged by another person. This is where I pass it down to you. And this is where it, without a doubt, it will advantage everyone, both who passes it down, both who receives it. Of course, there is a slightly irritative energy at play where whatever I say is wonderful, but it's gonna feel a bit harder, a bit more anxious, and a bit more severe than it actually is, because Venus holds a semi-square with Pluto. So this will really, really, really make us feel the seriousness of this moment. There is optimism, Jupiter trine Mars. There is faith there. Jupiter sextiling Saturn and Saturn sextiling Mars. There is definitely faith, ambition, I'm gonna do it there. But at the same time, there is also, oh my God, it's so difficult. It's so hard. I have to use muscles that I haven't used for years, tens of years. Or we have to do something that is highly uncomfortable for us. Venus semi-square Pluto. A moment of maximum courage, where courage in the sense that we have to negotiate with a big relevant person, a big boss or a big manager or a CEO. Pluto, the symbolism of Pluto, someone who is, we feel, because this is just a feeling, we feel that they are bigger than us, or make a very important phone call or presentation. We are feeling the heat of the spotlight, the not so favorable part of the spotlight. Because, you know, when the spotlight is on someone, both good and bad are going to be there. So Venus, the semi-square between Venus and Pluto is this, you know, tension. It is the, can I really do the, you know, those moments. Jupiter trine Mars. Oh, I'm definitely going to do it regardless what it takes. But then you get to what it takes. So can I really do it? So, but generally speaking, this is a beautiful energy and it gets us there. And even the new moons, T square with the nodes of the moon, I do find that ultimately positive. On one hand, we were trained, we were made ready to navigate through this type of T square summer, especially the late summer 2023, when Pluto held the T square, and Pluto, in that sense, truly gave the tune, the overall tune of this T square, where we have to fight for our independence, our sovereignty, our truth, our needs, whatever it is that we feel that we want to go towards in the future, North Node in Aries, and anything and everything that kind of hindered us was one way or another looked at, because looking at it in a very truthful way was very, very important. Why? Because only by seeing the truth, the reality, can we have power or tactics, or can we muster some kind of power to overcome our challenges, or the other way around. Some challenges didn't need to be overcome because those were uh, fated in a sense. But anyway, but then there is the South Node in Libra, relationships, friendships, one-on-one alliance, and most importantly, our own patterns that we developed over the course of the past 18 years, or let's say even 9 years, that kind of are our schematics, are our know-how, are our own manual, so to speak, on how to build relationships. Those need to change profoundly for the better. You know what I mean? So, let me just give an example. How, because this is also my personal example. Many new relationships are bad from the beginning. What am I doing wrong? Well, self-worth issues. How do you think to yourself about yourself? If you manage to change that, then even the relationships that you're gonna draw into your lives are gonna be very, very different. So this is just one example of how it was the patterns of relationships that we needed to look at and transform. So that is why this new moon, T-squaring the nodal axis, if we've done all that inner psychoanalytical work and all of that, of our own specifics, in 2023, then we are prepared to make this T square our own. You know, this represents the challenge, the difficulty to have everything in the right measure. And I do believe that this is the T square, the right measure of realism, of hope, of faith, of down to earth knowledge, mastery, sacrifice, fight within us, peace within us. So all of this in the right measure. So this is what I have to say about this Capricorn new moon. Thank you everyone for listening. And I'm wishing everyone a blessed and really, really empowered new moon. Don't forget to set an intention or to plant a seed of intention in the universe, especially that Capricorn is the sign and the stage of manifestation. So thank you, everyone. I really hope that this helped you. Thank you for all the love, all the likes and shares. And if you'd like to support my work, you can donate in the PayPal link in the description below. Wishing everyone a blessed new moon. Until next time, bye for now.